Issues.
I'm hiding it here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here you are.
Well, I know you're here, because
I know.
it's here, but. Okay, so I will. I need to speak to you.
3/4 of my day.
It's really bad. The last like 3 days have been very frustrating.
I'm sorry.
That's typically with our stuff.
Recording.
All right, we ready to go? Looks like we got enough people here to start, so.
Tara, do you have an extra agenda?
Oh, no, I can get, I'll put one on.
Thank you.
Okay. The first thing we do is introduce ourselves. I'm John Linn, co-chair of the Parks Board. Parks Board, this is my 5th term on overtime.
I'm Karen Kellogg, and it's just my first term, but it's been a fascinating year. We've had some real fun stuff happen, haven't we?
Diana Lavery, it's my second year, first term. And I live in Cascade Summit. I don't know who's name.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm Stacy Epstein. Let's see, this is my second semester, fifth time around, second season, 5th episode.
See, one that's crazy.
Todd Olson. I think this is my second stint, and I live in Barrington Heights.
Megan Bigton, Parks and Recreation Director.
Evan Bonington, City Council liaison to y'all.
Tara?
Oh, Tara.
Tara, we did staff.
In charge.
And then weve got Chris online.
Oh, yes, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Chris Owens from Robin Wood, and I'm in my first term on the board.
I'm Vicki Handy, co-chair. Well, I'm at, no idea how many.
Yeah, I tried a lot. I said, it's a long time.
A lot.
Your kids are probably this big when you.
Yeah. And it's great to see everybody again. I hope everyone had a happy summer. Yes.
Okay, so everybody see today's agenda? Anybody need anything to add? Let's move through it. Motion
Move to approve.
Okay, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved. Summary notes. I looked at those when they came out the other day. I didn't print them out. They look fine to me.
So, motion to approve.
Second. All right, all those in favor? Yes? Yep. Good.
Yes.
Okay, so community comments, we don't have any community. Right?
No short days.
Let's see really fast.
Well, so we also, as council, had kind of a summer recess. So the only thing that I think would be relevant to this group would be the Oppenlander situation.
Can I interrupt you really quickly
Go ahead.
and say, I forgot to let you guys know, what I was asking Councilor Bonington to do is instead of just going over issues, if there were updates from the council in general from previous council meetings, it's really helpful to have the Parks Board hear that in case we're not.
Yes.
So that's kind of what we're switching in because he has to go to Planning Commission after this. Is that where you're going?
Economic development.
Economic Development, right at like.
But that'll be the last time.
Okay, so we were trying to put him at the beginning, just in case he had to
That's
scurry
fine.
off. So sorry, that's where, we haven't done updates before, and I had asked him to do that. So thank you.
Back to Oppenlander.
Yes, thank you.
I assume probably everyone heard the trial began and concluded and not go in our favor, unfortunately. The school district, the ruling by the jury basically invalidated the contract for the purchase of the park property. And it kind of told us that the jury found that we operated in bad faith, unfortunately. So it made things kind of kind of sketchy. Anyhow, that does not necessarily mean that we're at the end of our road with negotiating with the school district on it. It doesn't mean we're going to continue doing that either. We've obviously had extensive discussions as a council over the last 2 years, about how we would approach this in this situation. But as of now, we're kind of still undecided. We still have other discussions as a result of the jury's verdict that we need to address. But it's worth noting that the school district did say after the verdict that they still wish for it to remain a park. Looking, but I think that obviously, since we pursued it, council is in favor of making it a park. So kind of to be determined, stay tuned.
I think it's going to depend on how much money they want. I mean, back in the day, before everything went on, they could have sold the land to develop it for $6.5 million.
Yes.
That was probably 3 years ago. So I bet they could sell it for more now, which then would look, if we had to buy it like it was a development park, I don't think we want to pay $6 to $8 million for a piece of land like that and then spend another $3 million to make it.
Has the school district changed the language when they decided to put that up? They had language that leaned toward a park as opposed to, let's just sell this excess property and put that into our capital budget.
Well, it's kind of complex, and on the school district side, I understand that it was going to go into a land bank and not actually
Yeah,
the budget.
you can't use it for like hiring teachers. It has to go into
It's
buying
capital.
property.
Yeah, no, I understand that. When they decided to sell it, they put in that decision, sell it to create a park,
Right.
which is what made it all binding and messed up for them.
There were a lot of things that were not optimal on both sides. My hope is that if we begin discussions again with them, it goes a little more sensibly and everything's done properly, but we're not there yet. We still haven't even technically finished the trial. The judge still has to consider the issue of attorney's fees and things like that. But as far as I know, they put that in, but it didn't necessarily mean anything. Like, there was already supposed to be a deed restriction, as I understood it. So that when it was originally purchased by them or annexed, it already wasn't supposed to be anything but a park. So it's a little interesting to see how that will play out. What is it, 60, 70 years later? I know that for us, like, we had already committed to making it a park, and then the value that we had the appraiser consider it under was as a park and not as a developable land. And so that's how we got to that 120K versus 8 million. But in order to do anything of 3.5 million, we'd have to put another measure on the ballot, have the voters approve on.
So right now for us, as far as even my role, I'm pretty limited in it. It's really up at council at this point. So I just wanted you to at least know the link that I put in here, the agenda, which I need to get to Stacy because she's not getting the emails, making it so difficult for her to get here.
It's okay.
To be looped in. I just put a note to check on that.
It's not a big deal.
But that our communications team is doing really good about updating that information. So if you do get details as the Parks Board, we can refer them to the website to get updates. So,
Yeah, there's a pretty good little website that
yeah, I thought it was good.
goes chunk by chunk of each step in the trial and even going back. And I mean, it's probably not necessarily super appropriate for me to mention this, but saveauchenlander.org has actually done really good in covering things that have happened. As a news source, sort of. Like, obviously, they're very pro Save Auchenlander, but they've had incredible coverage of it. I've been referring to at times. So there's that.
So as updates come, but I'll even try to send things out before meetings just to have us prompt and understand. Most of the letters have gone up to city manager and council. The one I forwarded you all was one that didn't come to you, but it had Parks Board's John wanted me just to make sure you guys were in the loop of what was going on there. So.
Any other matters of interest from the board, from the council?
I don't think we've really gotten into anything
new,
new yet, but if anyone has any questions about anything specific, I'm happy to take them.
I just wanted to know what the website was, is it the City of Westland website or a separate one?
Yeah, the City of
City of
Westland
Westland
website has, we ran on the front page. Okay.
You wasn't on the agenda, but in the email that came out to Parks Board, I had a link in there. I'll
Okay.
take you right to that and you can then share that. And it's really nice because it does go in chronological order of what has occurred in Linn. So we can't say too much because it's still in the process.
Yeah.
Yes, that pesky old, can't comment on ongoing litigation.
Okay.
But would say stay tuned. There's a lot of weird stuff that has to be worked out, so.
Well, the interesting stuff I've heard from a few friends is, let's see, they pay taxes in West Linn. So this is owned by me as somebody that pays taxes to the West Linn School District. Okay. So how is it they have to sell it to the parks?
Right.
You know, when it's the city of West Linn and I pay taxes there. Don't I own it to one place? Isn't that good enough on the other?
It seems so, and I mean, if you think about the land bank, there's not many properties the school district looks like to be buying in Westland.
No, it would all be in Wilson.
So there's that wrinkle to it.
So that's the wrinkle, I think, too, for people who live in West Linn, is that if you sell that to developers, and then you have the development, which may be good or bad, how we look at that, because that's money that'll go to buy school land in the growing place, which is Wilson, because they have space to do that. We don't.
Right.
I see a class action, so. Sure. Community.
I would say that the sentiment has been really heavily towards keeping it as a park. I think I've only heard one or two people say that they would prefer to have it be developed. And conversely, my inbox has been just with the same email saying, we'd like to maintain it as a park. So,
Okay.
um,
What is it officially right now?
It's owned by the school district. Yeah, it's school district land. Yeah.
it's in R10, so it could be basically like detached town home sort of things. Although when you put House Bill 2001 on top of that, it could end up looking way different. But that's how it is now. I guess I'd say I'd be surprised if it ends up at that point.
But it's kind of used already now, almost as.
Yes.
It's been one way for
Yeah.
a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Been a-
I played
many
with
soccer
Little
games
League
there.
there,
Yeah.
so.
Baseball. Many veterans have lots of memories of that. Lots of memories. Okay, is there anything else from city council?
I don't think it's particularly relevant has come up.
Awesome.
Our last meeting was pretty light too.
Well, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate your input tonight.
I promise that I am going to have this scheduling conflict ironed out, and next time around you will have the entire thing. Oh yeah, we're directing you to come up with some rules for the down to earth school thing, right?
I'm talking about that here next.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's not for them, it's for the whole park.
Yes.
Okay, so ready to go on to that?
Yes, it's not going to be 10 minutes for certain, but just to let you know that Down to Earth is operating right now at various young. We're working for the last few months and trying to get a work on an agreement. Not they're waiting for the agreement from us. Working with our attorneys, networking with other agencies around to see who has this kind of operation and what kind of troubleshooting have they gone through to make everybody feel successful. So, but we didn't want to stop them from starting. And so working on insurance requirements, which are getting a little bit difficult. They got their business license. They're doing their thing and we'll work on that agreement. Hopefully it might be going to them on Monday or Tuesday. So that's the important part of the main task is that they're there and operating. And I was just down there today when we were planning our harvest festival with staff, getting to kind of see the activity. So, but what the bigger picture is again, not focused solely on down to earth, is this larger policy discussion and planning for, there's different agencies call it different things. Business use in park is what we're kind of starting with, is things that are not programmed by us, of operations coming in that either are for profit, nonprofit. How do we handle from the gamut from a pop-up camp to a down-to-earth type school to, I always use the snow go guide, because already snow comes, it's fun. But you know, how do we manage that? And what are our park intended use? What's our process? As we do not have a current policy on that. The initial idea was to, when I say hire consultants, not a hire like an MIG, but somebody who has some specialty in this to go and research around with the other agencies around to see what is kind of tried and true, what people are doing currently, and take that and create our own policy, and then bring it to Parks Board to have some discussion to get weigh in on what that is. It's been interesting that I'm part of Oregon Recreation Parks Association Board, and on the maintenance construction section, on the admin section, and on the general executive board too. And so talking with other agencies to gather what they have, because most policies are not online. And so trying to gather some of that information. So my intent is that our next meeting, we'll have more information to kind of talk about this process. Because not all policies will come to Parks Board, but this one really has a lot of heart to it. And it's looking at a lot of times you can make a policy and we can't even enforce it. We don't have a ranger. We're not able to manage all the people who are coming to use, but what we are going to do is to try to make it fair for those who are following our process, make a good process to be able to allow people to come in and do activities that make sense for our parks. So I'm excited about this process because it's a piece that we really are lacking. But it would be kind of, feels like right away to get to the end goal, right? Because we do have part with down to earth specifically. So that is kind of where I'm at the moment. So knowing the next meeting will probably be a little bit more heavier on that discussion. Not a lot of other things have taken my time, but wanting to get down to earth kind of functioning means they keep operating. They have asked for a total of 65 kids every day at the park. And so we're working with just kind of expectations within the park use and making sure it's open to the public. And so we're setting them up for success and that we're maintaining our lease agreement and to the public too. So I think we'll be fine, but we're working through that. And it's going to be a template that we can move forward with or however this moves forward. So
Is that the number of kids they had last year?
they had,
Like it's.
they told us they had 57 in the council meeting and we only were approving essentially a new 18 to 20.
Right.
And so she's meeting 65 for this year. So we went ahead and said yes for this year with the 12 instructors. And are just wanting to allow them to be there this year and we'll work through future. The other school in Oregon that I found is in Bend. Heidi did give us a list of other schools that are in other states. Bend has a maximum of 15, and they are actually going to not be supporting that school moving forward potentially, just because they have a conditional use and the risk. But that's at a total empty site. It's not a site with all the amenities that we have in this regional park. So I think the thing is everybody values the education and values the goals and mission and trying to figure out how that fits within a park setting is what we're trying to do. And so Heidi's provided a lot of good information and checking regionally, and our connection with Oregon Recreation Parks Association helps that too, to know where all that fits.
And they're all 65 in the park at the same time?
We don't get rosters, so I don't actually, that's the attendance that she's goals are for her.
Because as the self-appointed czar, and folks, those are with you, I never see that many kids. I mean, I went every morning like the
Oh, they're
whole
little.
place. Well, that's true. I missed some of them.
They-
But kind of knowing the place where they congregated,
Well, they also, they gather as a large group at about 9 o'clock.
Oh, and then they
They
were
stop
selling
at
it.
a
Split
Yeah.
into places, that's
Yeah,
right.
they got the different clans. I just love how their names.
Yeah, so there'll be different places in the park. And I mean, as a group, I mean, because I'm in the park life,
Yeah.
they're really respectful.
yes.
They are. I mean, but I think, insurance is a good thing to have, which I don't think they had, I mean, in terms of that sort of stuff. And the other part is like even bathrooms, they're gonna use the bathrooms, which of course they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Then we need to have sort of a deal with,
Yeah.
how are they gonna, do we have to have somebody come 3 times a day with the bathrooms, or do they take care of the bathrooms? with these?
Yep, that's gonna be.
I know you're looking.
That was one of the things in the agreement, and just because the part that's tricky too, they're not private bathrooms for them, they're open to the public. And so
Yes.
making sure that every use they're meeting, and again, we just need to put some boundaries on it, and I think it'd be.
But if we
good
can
for the
keep it, I think it's a great thing. I think it's good for kids to have that exposure. And, you saw a couple of the parents, but I've met a lot of the parents because they've done some stuff with us that were check trails and stuff like that. It's for them, it's a really valuable thing. And it's not very expensive in terms of childcare. So that's another part of it. So,
Just from a park user perspective, I don't feel overwhelmed by the kids. I mean, I don't feel like, oh, God, we can't go down that trail because the kids are there. They're not that way at all. I mean, the kids are very respectful. I'm not the czar, I'm the empress. And yes, the empress of Marius, yeah. I have to say, I never feel overwhelmed by them either. When I'm down there, the kids are great. And, I think I agree with John. It's wonderful to have kids participating.
So I think the part I
It's just-
ask of you, if you could, and it's gonna make me sound like the bad guy, so anybody who's online, the part that I'm needing your help in is we are the Parks and Recreation Department of all of our parks. So I have no ill will or anything against Down to Earth. My job and my profession is to look at the impacts of our park system. And so this is one individual group. And then how do we manage the approval for that versus more? Should we just be opening all of our parks up to this?
if somebody decides that Merrillhurst Park
Yes.
is going to do something.
Yeah, and so a thing that we're working on right now is you have education come in, that's not recreation, so there's no immunity with that. So when we're renting, we have to talk about, we can't rent the whole park, we have to rent the shelter, there's a lot of things, there's a reason why it's not occurring in Oregon, it doesn't mean it's not going to, right? It's not that it doesn't mean it's going to, but there's a lot of bumpers that you have to kind of make sure that we're protecting everybody. And including those kids, it's not like protecting everybody else, right? So making sure we're weighing our liability, and there's a reason why there's rules in place and governances and insurance requirements for those reasons. So I think that's the only thing, like I said, we value them, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to elevate our discussion past that group and looking at our park system as a whole, as how business operates in our park. Because our role is not only the land stewards, but we are to provide community recreation. This is a private school operating out of our public park. And so that's not bad. We have to figure out how that works within our policy. That's,
Right.
so it's not a no, it's just how does that work and is that the right use of our public spaces? And I'm not saying that's literally a question.
Well, I don't mean to be at all that guy, but the city has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that they have in place the appropriate insurance policy, risk management, and protocols so that, again, they can all be safe. And I think some things were just maybe not as well thought out for 10 to 15 kids versus 65. So thank you for making sure that the ducks are in a row for such a nice opportunity for the kids.
Yeah.
I would come at the other. I mean, the community pays a lot. I pay a lot for it. So that's another piece of the bumpy road. And I know it's taking a lot of your time and negotiation skills and compromise. And thank you for doing that. I'm sure you're aware of these things. But the community, there, it's like I'm paying for it. You're letting a private group come.
We've heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing I would say on my way out that I've said a number of times is that if we didn't have serious restrictions and rules about how these things operate, no one would want to actually operate there. There's a duty that we have to be really, really harsh about how we make sure we're taking care of what we're charged with being stewards of. So,
Yes.
I don't want to do away with them either, but they do need to be able to operate in a way that doesn't pose a threat or is detrimental to us.
Right.
And it's also taking, I would say, a disproportionate amount of your time. Right? Like you have tons of other things you could be doing. And on top of that, the they're not necessarily paying their fair share for facilities. So I guess I'd like to see kind of adequate compensation for the things that are required to make them functional.
So along those lines, for those very reasons, so in my day job, I oversee the team that runs all the Lewis River parks up on the Lewis River. If you've been to Merwin and Yale and so.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Know that.
yeah, that's my interest in being here. And for a number of these very reasons, we do not allow any business use of those parks at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, we have gone back and forth, well, the taco truck can enhance the recreation experience. Like, nope. Because once you start down that road,
Yeah.
then it's like,
How are you saying yes to this one and saying
It-
no, and that's not where I'm
Exactly.
at right
So
now,
we
right?
just made the call. That doesn't keep someone from doing a guide service where they're enjoying all that offsite and they just meet them there and then launch and go fishing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's happening.
Or renting the shelter for the day or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of it. So
Yeah.
that's, and the city would
Same,
can do that, right?
What about,
Otherwise, it's.
Yeah.
What about all the activities, and I'm not against them, just curious, at the Book Zero boat ramp? Because there's like kayak kids week and there's paddleboard kids week. They're not through the city, are they?
so that's part of, some of them are and some of them are not. And so that's where we're even looking at, that's to me why there's a bigger conversation than just this one topic.
Yeah.
Because there's opportunity like, what is the kayaking group that does,
Paddle energy?
nope.
No.
It's like, for those who have limitations or disabilities,
Yeah.
there's,
Blind kayakers
Yeah.
association that comes into.
so there's groups that are like that we can have an agreement with, and it's, I mean, there's different, like, what is their purpose and goal, and looking at kind of our mission and values, which our department, we were just talking about that today. I'm using our master plan kind of as our mission and values, but ultimately we would like to have our own statements for that. Because if you weigh in, what is our criteria for what we're, I'm not saying allowing, but like, if it's a general, like, for example, REI is not in the partnering with us, we haven't had it formalized, and we're doing that this year. But they're providing beginner classes open to the public, not necessarily, you know, just like what, but how does that fit within our model, right? But if it's an elite thing coming in and it's only for, you know, like, looking at where and why and how you allow additional use. And then also, do you just have a fee for coming to use the Euro Boat Launch, right? You know, those are some things like, do we have a rental station there? Those are things that we look at to why, what is that business use and how is it improving our community? Now, the part that's hard is we have regional parks, right? In LO, you have where Rogers is a regional park, right? So you have to look at how much use you have there, but we have Cedar Road Boat Launch, Marietta, and Willamette. So others outside are coming in. If they're going to come in, how do we capture some of that fee of that use, the degradation of the area? How is it benefiting our community? So it's kind of weighing those things. And so that's where you go to the taco truck. You know, school is a much bigger thing, but when you're looking at what are those, how do we streamline that? And by getting this policy in place, allows us to be able to give a person a process for approval, or to say, you know, your business model doesn't fit. Or can we partner with you? And this is another way you can operate. We're not going to be able to get everybody by any means because we don't have the management to do that, but it can set us up for a good way of starting to manage that. Hello, upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, more than welcome to join the park board if you like. So that's where, if you hear me kind of trying to pull us up, it's not that I don't want to make it fully focused on down to earth by any means, but I'm trying to bring us up that it's our whole kind of system.
Yeah.
And knowing that you start with a policy and you can always refine it based on what the need is, or if there's adjustments that aren't making sense, we're gonna have to start with something, and it's gonna help Tara and myself and our staff do a much, it's gonna help us immensely. Because we're having to say, well, why are you saying no to this group? Well, having this philosophy down will make that so much easier.
Giving you some criteria for decision.
100%,
Yeah.
right?
And Todd, I really appreciate you sharing your perspective and experience there. It's relevant.
Well, and you also look at a land type, what is Marius Young's, like the area, the natural area. I come from LO where there's a definition and a protection layer over that. That business use is different than if you were at, say, up at the fields where it's intended for that kind of intended use. And so those are some longer term questions to ask for. And that's why we went to the deed. What was the deed? What did the deed say? How does that work?
So habitat protection.
It is, right? So even though we want kids going through an issue, right? I'm not saying that I want kids playing creeks and those things, but if you're looking at it from a resource, that's why Metro doesn't allow that word in that activity in there because they are protecting and enhancing the habitat. So they have really scoped areas where the visitor impact is. Right? So
Yeah.
you're thinking of it, so what is the goal of Mary SM when we have the start of the master plan, we have the deeds, those things will eventually give us that greater picture.
Yeah.
But if we're just looking at it as the park that we know and understand, and you're looking at all of our parks around, how do you take those same amenities somewhere else and how do you grade the next group that wants to do the same thing?
Just out of curiosity, are we working with the forest nanny?
I am working, but I am.
Not wrapping around, I was just
No,
curious.
I reached out to her. This is why it's not beneficial to work in your own city that you live. I reached out to the forest nanny at the beginning of the season after I saw her advertising. And so there was 4 different groups that I reached out to who are offering camps within the park. Asked them if they had a business license, asked them if they have insurance, asked them if they'd be interested in partnering with us. And by the time I had discovered them, their seasons had already started. And so I had told her that she would be able to operate just kind of like we do with Down to Earth. You can operate this year, but next year we will require you to do a reservation, to have your business license, have your insurance, and it may not be allowed based on if you're not partnering with us because we have limited amount of space for camps. So did the same thing with a nanny who was down, Miss Hannah's nanny that I love. We actually really wanted to partner with her. The school teacher. Yeah, the school teacher who made reading. We wanted to partner with her, but we were having problems that she was setting up camp at Hammerly and would not know that we were having camps ourselves. And so there'd be conflict over the shelter. So we actually were going to arrange with her to have an area. She had her business license, she had her insurance. We said, we won't even charge you, just let you continue through the summer. And she pulled away because she essentially told us she didn't use the shelter, but she needed the shelter. So she moved on. So I'm trying to take that approach with everybody, say, hey, I don't want to disrupt your business for this year. No, but no, moving forward, there is a protocol because all the other people you're seeing in the park have paid their fees or given us their
Right.
insurance and paying, and that's not fair.
Megan, maybe I misunderstood. Is Down to Earth, they have insurance, right?
They do. They do not have it. They do not have the quantity of insurance that we need, but they do have insurance. And now they have it. Heidi was able to get it with us as additionally insurance, which we require. So that's our next hurdle to work with.
That's worrisome.
It is, and what they have covered is not what is not enough.
adequate.
Right, but those are the things we're working on. So no, Heidi got her business license. That was awesome. She got, we're also giving her in city rate, even though her business is out of the city. So we're doing that to the good faith to say, no, you're here. We still want you here to do this year. It was an increased fee because that's what all the residents pay as well who are renting the shelter. So we thought that was only fair. But those are things that when we do this agreement, she may negotiate differently, but she's paying that currently right now. But when she does this agreement, she may have some negotiation that we'll try. I don't know. We'll see what she says. But we're definitely not trying to make them unsuccessful. We're just trying to make sure, again, like I said, things are fair. So yeah, and she does have her insurance with the city, but it's not at the level that we would require. So yeah, so I think we're gonna have some good conversations with them. Like I said, it was fun to see all the kids there today. It's not that it's just, yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of layers. So you could peel that onion at a lot of layers. So we're gonna try to keep it a little bit focused, but it is a bigger question.
Yeah.
Than each area, right? So
Do you want to go on to your department and project update?
yes, but I'm wondering if Chris will be able to hear and see. So if you guys can hold on for a minute or talk amongst yourselves while I try to put this on here.
Well, how about if we,
If Tara maybe.
yeah, how about if we go on to events and rec update? Sure.
So Chris, if you lose us for a second, no, we're here. I'm attempting something.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, her technology's not our friend this week, so scramble.
Oh, I got it. But now if I can see if I can share it with Chris. Okay, hang tight, Chris. Hang tight. How do I share screen?
There you go.
Share content?
And pick the screen.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Share? Oh my goodness, how do I get rid of this thing now?
No, don't.
This, well, no, this one right here?
You need to move him out of the way.
Close.
Share. Is that your share?
But I can't get rid of this.
Click. No, white is on the back. See if that is. No.
Close, click on.
Hmm?
Can you just scooch that off?
I can't move it at all. Let's see if I need to do this. Nope, it's not gonna start.
That's out.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, goodness gracious.
On that, yeah, we'll go like-
Okay.
You know what? I can put it on my computer. I'm on the WebEx. No, I'm not on the WebEx. Just on.
So you know what, Chris? If you're okay looking, I'm gonna stop sharing.
That's fun.
And I'm gonna
That's-
let Sarah do her thing. And if you see a little blurriness, it's because it's me messing with the screen. How does that sound?
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
So we're in the fall. Yeah, so since our last meeting, July, yes, we had the fair. Yes, I'm trying to, reminisce. We had a nice planning meeting today. It started with a really good planning meeting with operation staff. So just to kind of talk about how summer went and look towards the future. So yeah, and then we had, the fair was fantastic, well attended, everybody was happy. Carnival showed up, was great. And vendors, we have some things we're gonna change for next year. Logistic wise, parade was a huge success. I don't know if anybody made it down there to see the crowd. Yeah, yeah. And then, so we had, movies in the park, 3 movies in the park. We had during the week this year on Wednesday nights. We had about 100 down there each night, so that was a pretty good turnout. So I thought Willamette Park was a good location for people, walking and parking, and not as dark. So Marius meant it was kind of dark. That's one thing. So now we're into fall, winter, Christmas, all that good stuff. We are switching up our Boo event. So it's going to be a fall festival forest this year. Just kind of safety wise, the nighttime thing. We had a very successful event for the last couple of years, and to our, detriment, unfortunately. So safety wise, evening time, tripping hazards and all that, and just large crowds, both nights, which is fantastic. But this year we're gonna pause on that and do a 1-day event. So it's still Saturday, October 12th, during the day, so 11 to 2. We'll have some pumpkin decorating. We're gonna have some vendors on site. We're gonna do a scavenger hunt, a trick or treating station around the Izio area. We're inviting a lot of the community departments. Police will be there. Some of our volunteer groups. And so we'll have a lot of stations throughout for people to give out candy and some coupons and stuff like that. And so hopefully that'll be great. It'll be during the daytime
And we were sent invitation
yeah.
to have a setup, bring your own candy, bring your own pop-up and get it all set up. Board. Yeah. And I'm trying to talk my husband into doing that because has a really nice pop-up and really good tables, all of that. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to get that. So if we want to do that, I was thinking about having the sweat work done. But I think it would be really fun. And I'm assuming that, are we supposed to be in costume?
Costumes are suggested.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, there is a contest.
We could go around
Right.
the board top of it.
Yeah.
But it is only 1 day and it's in the middle of the day. And so I just wanted to note that we had been requested, and if you have that time available, I think we should do something.
And we did say that we would, for you guys, if we needed a tent, we could, I mean, if you're wanting to provide it, but we can. And also we were talking today, if we don't need tents, we may just do tabletops for people too. So just know if you don't have to do that, for the parks board, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Saturday afterwards.
Something special.
I got some
Bring
breakfast
up cloth and some,
I love it.
So,
That's great. Thank you. That would be
Yeah, that'd be so fun.
yes,
So we're
yes.
trying to, I mean, we've mapped out about 16 scavenger hunt spots, locations today. We want to do so.
or trick or treat.
For trick or treat
Yeah.
stations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. So, yeah, so we can have a band, possibly Ghostbusters will be there, probably the Vector guy. So we kind of had some of that, the bands, but you know, the music, yeah, the boo and too, so.
I have no idea. So
Some of them are-
Yeah, if you send them over, Sarah.
can you make sure that all the information on this is in the notes? And is anybody else interested in going? Because our next meeting is the 10th, 2 days before this. And it would be nice if we had some idea. Yeah, I know that's, a month away, but I don't want to have it be 2 days and it's like, I don't know.
I like the idea, but I'm gonna be out of town, but I would love to contribute towards the candy.
Okay.
Somewhere in Italy.
I have to bring up something. That is the date of Yom Kippur, which is one of the holiest Jewish. Oh, not it. So yeah, that's an issue. I think Westland probably has two Jewish. Yeah, so I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's like, maybe, yeah, in the future we should, I'm just suggesting, maybe in the future, we look at calendars on important dates,
We were limited to by our dates. The following dates were all at our conference. And so then we're on Halloween. And so that's what we were kind of getting and then trying to coordinate with the preschool. Yours is way more important than just like we were talking about the preschool or
so
whatever the school event was. So
Whether, like I said.
no, it's really good to know that. It's really good you did.
Yeah, the Democratic Party scheduled a big auction for that day. When it was brought up, they had to change venues.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they didn't look at calendars either.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, that's really good.
If you can put it in the notes or send out an additional, so Todd's out of town, Karen's out of town.
I have a baby. I was just looking at my calendar. I have somebody coming into town, but they may not be coming.
Well, think about it, and if you're interested, why don't you give me an email or something?
It was 11 to 2.
It's 11 to 2.
Yeah.
Are you?
We're gonna meet on Friday.
Okay, awesome.
Susie, what was the name of the day? Just I want to make sure I can.
It's Yom Kippur. There's the whole
I
bunch.
do know that I totally
There's a
that.
whole bunch of holidays that have right around it called the high holidays.
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah.
I totally know exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
It's important.
Exactly.
And then just a shout out, we were next seasonal dance tomorrow at the adult center. So was putting that on. It's a great turnout, like over 50 kids and
What is it?
parents for seasonal dance for neurodivergent and disability, yeah. So she's doing those quarterly, just trying to add one a year. So yeah, they've been a huge success.
Who's putting them on?
Adults, I was like, you said
Yeah.
Nicole?
Nicole.
Nicole, our
Oh,
coordinator up there. Yeah. So fantastic. So we're excited about that. And then one other thing we have to discuss is Larry McIntyre's.
Yes.
Plaque. So for the stage, so they, Historical Society already purchased their bench and their plaque separate, which is gonna be up on the hill. But I got the proof for the one on the stage, which is, needs to be probably about like 12 by 15 size to match some of the other plaques. There's some that are on the ground that kind of dedicate this, not the stage, but building it, there's a couple different ones like when it was established. So it would be 12 by 15 on the stage. It costs about $685. So just
How much is being taken care of by historical group versus the city?
So at that meeting, they had asked us to, because they were doing this bench and other thing, and we didn't anticipate it costing over $600 for the plaque. And also trying to make sure we don't set a precedence, but I feel like we need to do this one, but it would be something that we'd want to update our policy that,
Another policy, aren't you?
no, we have the policy already.
policy, yeah.
But it is, like, the part I like about those, again, even though the word policy sounds not great, but what it does is it gives the person the right expectation when they present it. So, it would be great if they could help pay for this, but I know that they've already honored in another way. And so, I feel like more than likely we need to just pay for it to get it installed. So, it's not what I usually do, but it's
like
like,
installation too.
we do
Our staff would install it.
So it's more that we'll know for the next time if this comes about, we need to get that written into that, so it's just understood at the beginning.
Yeah. With the students.
Yeah, or if they would have, probably we should have suggested that they didn't do the bench, do that separately and do it, what is the most important for the funding?
Right.
So it's one of those things I feel like the right thing to do is to pay for it, but should we probably not, but making sure that we set the expectation right for the next person who may have a group that comes to us for.
Well, like our holidays, when you know better, you do better, right? Okay. And music in the park, you didn't mention that.
Oh, that was great too, yeah.
Thumbs up there.
A few more of those, yeah. Yeah, our last one was fun. It was raining, so we packed up real quick. We were, yeah, but yeah, great turnout. I mean, just fantastic. Just very smooth this year.
You did awesome work this summer.
Yeah. And I would like to say, I would do try to drive on them, but getting to experience the setup, working the day, setting it up. I come at it from the parks perspective, but we are really working to streamline, and as people are wanting us to take on more events, when I've seen what this group has done, I've been to everyone that I can be for the setup and tear down. It's a lot for who's there. And so looking at that's where part of our planning is for me, it's morale and to avoid as much that burnout as we can. If we do that, we're going to provide a better service to the community too. So we're really working on that, and I'm super proud of what they've done. People don't realize that for a small city to put on the fair that we do. It's the small cubicle of people right here that do that. It's a lot, and it's great. So help us when we see bad things on Facebook about what's happened or occurred. It's like we take it to heart, but it is good feedback from people too. We hear things like why we couldn't do it in the evenings this year, and hopefully people will enjoy what we were offering, but we're always wanting to adapt and keep our traditions that we have too. So
People think, yeah, there's only like 27,000 people. When we do our planning for next year, let us also make a column of where you would want community volunteers. And we can send that at the beginning of the year to the National Honor Society, the high school, and the Scouts, and all of these service organizations, and have them, adopt one of these to provide labor. And I know that that's one more layer of stuff, but we now have a pattern. We kind of put together the calendar. If you said this one and this one, we could use help. Don't give us any help at these others because it'll probably be worse. I'd be happy to make the communications and everything to those organizations because they need their volunteer hours, and
So where we are with that is we do already do that. The part that we're struggling with is the consistent. So I did the same thing in my previous job. And so when you're running an event, you kind of need to know exactly who's going to be there and what skill set and what they can do. So it's not the help we need during the event. We know at the fair we're going to be able to tap into more volunteers for specific events.
Yeah.
When we're setting up for movies in the park or for it's like, it's the hours of the planning it and setting it up during the day. Like we just changed, they used to set up at the heat of the day and with the heat index that we had. I'm a mama bear for following those rules. And so they set up in the middle of the day earlier, we got extra park staff and had it done like in an hour. And it sat out there, we had nobody mess with it, but then it saved our staff. And so those are some things that we're trying to find the right avenue. I'm here on that. Not only are we required to, but to me, it's really personal, their safety. And so there's some things that we're trying to look at how we can start holding in volunteers in an appropriate way and how do we manage this. So even having the support of somebody kind of managing that. Boy Scouts were really great at our polar plunge. That was a perfect setup where they set up the fire pits and they managed them. So we find those dates, you know, and see outcomes and our, you know, ambassadors come for certain events, but it does take one person to be able to continue to be that manager of that. And we have certain groups that are doing really well, the others that we haven't tapped into are some that just don't quite always pan out. So trying to find that one where it truly is the benefit versus taking a lot of time. And I also take those volunteer time, especially with youth. Those are training of showing them how to work and how processes work. So trying to have that right balance is something we're definitely, it was on our agenda today, we didn't get to it, but how do we tap into that volunteer base and have it work right, where it's not over consuming our time, because then it leads us to want. People thought that we didn't do the boo because we didn't have enough volunteers. The boo, we spend more time setting up than we do the fair. And we can't have Eagle Scouts or Scouts coming in 2 weeks when we're trying to do electrical and trying to make this so little dark place really light, even though it was phenomenal. We had to go, okay, what are we doing? And should we be doing that America's time at this time of year? And it's
They spent a lot of time setting up.
oh, they did. It was over in weeks for that 2-day, like 3-hour event. Where the fair, look at how that impact is for how many community members and regionally. That effort is definitely more, you know, so those are some things. And our biggest one was the risk and liability of having it at night. So anyway, but that's exact. We will just know we will be tapping into that. We're kind of reevaluating that with our events right now.
There goes that new position you're going to create for volunteer coordinator. You can handle all of that stuff.
Yeah. That's terribly the one who does that.
Deputy director is what you do. That's really good.
So,
Okay,
so that was that one.
so awesome job. Share our appreciation with the entire staff. Make sure that's in the notes that the whole board really appreciates all of the work that was done this summer, and it really was shiny.
And one thing just married is even farther behind the scenes park staff that does the work that they need to come and support. They book the events that they work to. So it was a really good team. I thought we had a really good team building this year on that and getting feedback from those who are running it, not just planning it. It was really cool. So
Good work.
okay.
So we have projects.
We have projects. So now, Chris, because it's saying that I don't have a verified subscription, you're going to see the behind the scenes view of it, if it'll let me do it, where I can't get away from having a full presentation. So, oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So, you know, I can't get rid of the top box, but that's okay.
Can you pop Chris?
Yes, let's move Chris up to the top. Does that work out? Chris, you don't even know you're being moved.
Yeah.
It's no idea.
Okay, so for full disclosure on this, since I've been here, projects that kind of, for the most part, big stuff like our bonds and things that were not in the works, our system development projects have been kind of sitting there because I really, talking with staff, figure I needed to kind of get more in the weeds, and I probably should have to kind of figure out where they're setting. We're looking at evaluating our recreation program right now. What is it? What classes aren't filling? What gaps are missing? So those type of things, and with the maintenance of the park staff, I like to call them not just maintenance because there's so much more park staff, is we're looking at how are they operating? What is our fertilizer schedule? What is our, when are we mulching? How's our irrigating? Those we're actually going to be creating, and I don't mean to show that it has the other person on top of it, but I created with the staff a maintenance manual to be able to have us all on the same page of what we do and why and when. For multiple reasons, not only so staff have a calendar of what we need to do looking to the future, because winter is a really hard time to work, right? You just ran yourself crazy in the summer. When we start looking at some of the things we need to do to prep our landscapes and our facilities, it makes our spring and summer easier. And so there hasn't been a lot of that planning in the recent past. So we're going to sit down as a group. It's not going to be a top down. I'm going to start with the document I have because it's already created, and we're going to make it West Linn. And so all the staff has buy-in, so we can start improving the maintenance and deferred maintenance and that type of thing.
That's good.
So I would have loved to first day got on all these projects and not having just been sitting there not happening. There's certain things that are going on. Historic City Hall is happening, which is part of my project palette too.
I don't think anyone's calling you a slacker. How long have you been here?
It's
It's
11.
Almost a
But
year.
who's counting?
I know. Because I want to get further along, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's going to be a lot coming up relatively shortly. I have to dive into this because first off, we have our bond that needs to be wrapped up. We have budget coming up, looking at things that we're needing for our deferred maintenance or long-term maintenance and getting those plans together that we don't really have. They've had them, but then the bond came and the pandemic, things haven't been updated. So that's what my next kind of 3 or 4 months is going to be really focused on, working with staff and looking at safety issues first. Then deferred maintenance like turf repair or what I get playground replacement or stairs is another one. Oh my gosh, how many sets of wooden stairs that we have built that we have to fix? Bridges, I think we counted over 30 bridges. But looking at those safety first and then building our platform for there and then adjusting our like SEC funding and that kind of thing. And what do I need to provide for more staff? We've had FTEs, but can we adjust our seasonal help to get more help where we need it? So big picture is what I'm trying to do. But here is where we're currently at this moment and show you some of the longer term thinking. Sorry, Chris, we had you on that slide for way too long. A project that was started right before I got here was the non-motorized boat launch down at Willamette Park. The current part of the bond is just for a 30% design to get kind of that launching board to be able to finish the design and to be able to build. A couple things that it includes, and I'll get to a picture, but quickly, is the old boat ramp. One of the first ADA accessible non-motorized boat launches in the area. Tiger is building this one as well, and the pathway potentially to connect. The current funding is 30%. There's opportunities for Marine Board grants when we get this up and running, when we get the design completed. And then what I need to do right now is look at what it is and how it fits within the current budget we have with Go Bond. A bonus that has come out of it is Tualatin River Keepers. We just met with them, and they are we are part of a group that they're applying for a grant to get Life Vest kiosks put up. We have kind of a pseudo one. We're gonna apply. They're gonna apply for us for one at Willamette, and then we're also gonna get one over in the future at Fields Bridge, and I'll tell you kind of some dreaming over there.
It's British, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the areas of a big, well, not what you're thinking. So I'll fill you in on that one. These are things that are coming to me as potential opportunities. When I got here, the original design was this, and it's a little blurry. If you can see where this was used to be the old boat launch that came in, that's really degraded that we were supposed to remove years ago. That really is the key.
Wait, which one?
So here's the, no, this is sorry. That one, Willamette. I'm so sorry. So it's just an asphalt driveway that leads into the water that's unusable right now, right?
Yeah.
And then you have
It's used
no,
heavily.
but I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
but
used, it's not usable for the initial intent, and it won't go back to the driving a boat back there. That's not the goal anymore. You got the Tualatin here and then the Willamette. So the goal was, what I was told was that we wanted to get several things. We wanted the Marine Board and my predecessors, mostly guided by the Marine Board, is trying to get non-motorized boat traffic off of motorized boat traffic over at Bernard Landing. The other one is we don't have rangers, and so some readers are not allowed on Lake Speaker because they're rangers, and so they like to hang out over at Bernard Landing. So the thought was, if we had these other places to get people to the water, that they would be able to, not only for accessibility, which would be fabulous, but we'd improve our current situation. When I got to this design, just because I always take things to those who are actually maintaining them versus me. I took them to our park staff. And we went down and looked at the Fulton River during winter. And this design was terrifying. And not from a perspective of not wanting more maintenance. We literally could not figure out how we would be able to keep this safe. The designers were not given videos or footage of the amount of logs that were coming down, the trajectory of speed of the water coming in. And then what happens here is this is an eddy. So it's a slow water. So you see, if you actually look at if you ever just for fun, look at a Google Earth overview or even our city ones, the amount of wood debris and tree debris that is along that bank all the way around is exponential. So I tried to work with, so we kept sending them videos and photos just to say, it's not that we don't want to do this design, but how are we going to keep it safe? And they looked at potentially putting a barrier here to keep wood from coming. We'd have to hire a barge every year to come and clean it out. We don't have that many. And so knowing that things would get caught in here, and all of our boat work, our dock work, our staff does for the most part. So like that Cedar Oak turn of that, they do that. It freaks me out, but they do that. So what it turned into after many conversations with the designers, staff, going in down and looking at it, I noticed this tiny here. What we looked at, what was a better design, was using this access and having a lesser of a slope coming down, improving the stairs. This green landing takes you just a direct step off to the beach for those who don't want to go all the way down, and then to continue on to this point. And can you see all this debris down here?
Yes.
I mean, that's huge. This still has a concern for us for debris, but we can actually we can manage this better. And knowing that this eddy here is slow, that if debris did accumulate, we can handle it better. We're still not 100% on board that it's going to be spot on, but it's much better than what we had started with. The thing is I think of, when you think of non-motorized or ADA accessibility for kayaking, even if you have grandma in a wheelchair, a baby in a stroller, you're providing access down to the water for view. And so this still provides this, also with the less platforms for somebody blocking pathways. We have higher confidence that we can maintain this well. Would we choose to have this project here? To be honest with you, the answer would be no.
Yeah.
The amount of debris we have, talked with John about, like, did we just scrap this? I know that's not what I want, but trying to figure out how can we do this well? Because we already have so many amenities at this park, and we're adding another potential high feature. So this is what we have currently designed, and regardless, it would be an improved staircase versus people kind of snaking through. A platform where you can get here and just drop right off versus people making their own way, not wanting to go to the bottom. And then, of course, this improvement of this area here with the replacing the asphalt with permeable pavement that would allow and handle the flooding that would go down in there, so people would have improved access here.
It's nice.
So what I've had them do is put this into 3 scopes of work. That's why you see all these alternates. This sidewalk here, the original plan, Ken and the previous director were trying to do a whole bunch of road improvements along this side that were not budgeted for by Public Works, nor I think in their purview. So I've taken that off of the scope of work because we didn't have enough money for it anyway. You were going to gain like 5 or 6 spots. And for the amount of trees that have to remove, the amount of stormwater that would have to be, the benefit wasn't great enough. So I've asked them to look at this gravel parking lot and with a minimal touch of improvement, because we don't want to trigger our stormwater. It's working better as its own stormwater facility than adding a whole bunch more. Adding a piece that if we can connect this for a sidewalk that could come at later point to be able to connect these 2 locations. If you had somebody on the other side to even be able to boat, be able to child, just walk safer.
Yeah.
And then the first thing we would want to do, depending if we had to phase it, would be to get this done, because we have a requirement to get that asphalt out of the water and get that replaced. It's already heavily used. So start that with phase. If we couldn't afford all of it, to me, that would be our phase 1. Phase 2 would be this piece, and then this connection piece on the side. So that's how it's going to frame when they're designing it, keeping it in 3 different pieces, and then we'd be able to look at budgetarily what we could do.
What is the material the turquoise rim?
It was going to be, I don't think we've even gotten that far. I would hope it would be of a Trex type that's whatever is suited for decking right now. I can't even think of what we did at Foothills Park, but but it would be not of boards of marine grade. That would be easily managed pressure wash, not the pressure wash. You end up with a composite. End up with who's just composite. Thank you.
So not aluminum.
I don't think so. No, these pilings. This isn't floating, so these are stationary. So I don't think it would be. But those, we are only at 30% design, so we haven't even gotten to materials yet, and that would come in first, and it would be what's most durable, what's easiest to manage, and what can we afford.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to it's going to be able to long-term handle it. So, but those are questions that would come up for the next phase. My vision would be that it would be more of a composite that you're seeing elsewhere on other docking, sort of clean longevity. Yeah.
Is the phase one, you said get the asphalt out, does that include the replacement? Okay.
Yeah, it would have to, and again, these phases could go different ways, but to me, this is the number one that's used right now.
Yeah.
And so if we were able to do whatever we need to do to improve our parking, even if it's just striping it in some way where you can do that and without using paint, to make it so it's clear and concise, improve our signage, having the Life Vest kiosk there, that would be a number one to me. I would love to be able to get the sidewalk to connect our traffic regardless, but it depends on planning that would go involved with that versus the planning with the, what funding's there. So that would be kind of at least my current mindset on that, but we'll see when we get to the 30% and then how do I get to us to 100% and then build? So, yeah. So the other GoBond projects, the website is updated and it's been a while. We have a lot of the GoBond projects that, again, remember I kind of came into this project of what was done and what's left to do. The ones that are left are the heavy hitters that are going to need to have some look at. So that's what I'm doing next is this review of what current projects were left listed to be done. And then what is the funding attached to them and what our next steps are. So right now, the Willamette River Access Catwalk, has anybody been down there? And if I was struggling, I couldn't get my computer, I was going to give you an overall map because it's pretty interesting. If you were to go to Historic City Hall and start walking on the road that you're going to the paper mill, there's a road that turns to the left. And there is an amazing set of staircases that we replaced, the wood ones, to start this project. We just did that because, again, safety number one. Get there, and then there's a ladder system that takes you to a wooden ladder system that you have to, this pontoon that moves to step onto this kind of pontoon to get down to the fishing dock.
Oh, great.
So the original plan was to have.
She's got a big science system.
And it's not even on our property.
Okay.
So
It's on the mills.
it's on, they're in PGE, right, in that space. So what we did this year, the original idea was to create a pathway that they saw. I don't know who they is, it Ken Wooster and that group saw a pathway that could lead down to, so you could actually get down to that fishing dock much better. You wouldn't get to the dock itself better with this moving bridge piece, but after talking with Ken Warner and seeing what was there and knowing that there's a lot of things that are potentially happening in our shorter term future, I went ahead and had Jen Bravo, who's our park superintendent, supervisor. She had a company come in and replace that stuffing, so those who are already using it is safer. But when you see it, it's scary. But so that's where I use that money currently because that pathway was not happening. So at least we've got that update for safety. So the additional trail access will come with a larger Willamette project that's coming in. The big one that's left is the Willamette River waterfront project. And I took this straight off the website of what was posted. And it's essentially trying to bring more activation to the Willamette. And what I'm wanting to do with this is, again, took a look at what the intention was, what was promised. And then as we look at where we are with the bond, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to see where we can use the funds that we have. Right, and then look at, because this really ties into that longer vision of the Willamette corridor that's in the process right now, which we'll need to get us to have a presentation on it soon, maybe in the next couple of meetings, of how we can activate this as it is. So right now with the Willamette, the thing that we're working on is that non-motorized boat launch area And I have to see how the rest of this works in with the budget that we have and what was committed to. And
Jigsaw puzzle.
tell you guys, I can, you did all the easy ones. You left me with this. The part that is neat, though, I have to say, if you get a chance, and I definitely will make sure that we get a conversation with the Willamette Vision, Waterfront Vision Project. It's pretty neat what's occurring. And you know how there's those projects that you hear that are like, oh, they're still like 10, 15 years away. This one's still made, but there's so much traction going on with PGE. The mill potentially closing right now. What does that mean? And that visioning piece of that whole area has a lot of interest with the tribes, of course, too. So there's just a lot of, so in my mind, I'm thinking historic city hall of history down to, 205, what's happening there, to the McLean House, to Maddox Woods. There's this whole corridor of our history that's tied to not only for us, for the community, but a greater population of understanding what we are. And there's a lot of great opportunities to have the community, and just what's happening in the city. So there's a lot of it. So, did I move down to the next one? There we are. This was not a great picture because I couldn't find the other pictures before the meeting. The other one was Marius Young. It had listed that we were going to have some upgrades in there, rehabbing the bathrooms. I went in the bathrooms today. We have some maintenance that we need to do in there, but those were refreshed. You'll notice I have this great picture of the dog park with all of the new benches, the trees, new bike stands were installed in a couple different locations. And so that was exciting. So that project, when I say it's complete, there's probably still a few things that we'll do when I look at that budget to add some additional amenities if we can. I think there was a drinking fountain replacement that was on there. I need to find out why, or if that, you could have had it down, or maybe we couldn't do it based on what needed to happen. So that's why I'm exploring.
So my dog friends called me and said, did you see the new trees? They really like me.
We have one that died, but we're going to take it out and get it replaced. Let's see. So other projects that we have going on that you don't necessarily know about with splash pads. I don't know if you know that we have to monitor all 5 of them every 2 hours for the time that they're open. So when we keep them open up until 8 o'clock at night, we have staff before, and actually this summer we had to have staff here until at least 6 o'clock, and then they are here technically till 6:30 by the time they drive back to go. We did install a new monitoring system that can go to our, and we have to make documentation for the state. So we have a new app system that's coming to our phones. We weren't able to fully implement it this summer, so we paid a lot of overtime to make sure those were up and running. But for next year, we'll be able to monitor those better. And still, like, for example, for me, after hours, I will be the one on call because I'm close by, and we're getting our processes so that only that right now, like 1 or 2 people really know splash pads. We'll have more, we're going to create a manual for it so others can come and help. But that's, 7 days a week. So when people get upset when we shut splash pads down at Labor Day, it's because of our seasonals are going away and we are less staffed. But what we did when we had this heat spike, we kept 2 open so people can still get to them for that relief and for fun. So that was an exciting one. So we found
Great project.
well, people behind the scenes don't even know.
It'll
right?
save you so much money in the future.
It will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and again, most cities do not have of our size.
Yeah.
Also, there's been a ton of irrigation repairs that Freddie has been doing. They're finding leaks of Freddie's our irrigation specialist. Leaky valves and things, so those have been getting worked on. Robinwood restroom had a tree fall on it, and the roof got repaired. The skylight got repaired. That was great. You've probably seen that there's been a lot of mulching going on this last year. We only got to the main parks this year, but trying to explain it's not just beauty bark, it's our weed suppression, which leads to a kind of our integrated pest management philosophy that we'll be building and getting that document together, but trying to build that. And so now the neighborhood parks are kind of needing that refresh. Not only does it look good and people see that we're there, but that weed suppression is, and moisture retention is great too. Trail inventory, I fudged with that word a lot, so let me explain what I'm talking about. Because we have recreational immunity that has a Band-Aid for right now. It's not my #1 trigger, but I'm using it as my force to kind of make this happen. With our miles of trails that we have, they're astronomically and beautiful, right? The access that you get down to creeks and to streams and to get from one side of the neighbor to the other. But we have not only the trail system that we have to manage and monitor, but all of the man-made features. we are at high risk for those. And a lot of those were built by Eagle Scouts, which again was great. Bridges that we've had, once it's been built and somebody else walks away, that's why you'll find that we are more reluctant to say yes to Eagle Scout projects unless we have a need, because we own it after they walk away. So there currently is a trail over at, don't tell me. Come look out. Tell me no. Yes. You always want to call it the main road. Always want to call it the main road. We had to close that trail, and because it is, you literally had to hold onto a tree to take a step to get down. And then you go to the other section and there's all of these stairs that were built out of wood, with gravel fill, and they're all breaking apart. And so what I'm asking too of our staff, we're gonna go start walking, and we're not grading our trails because that's a whole nother thing, but I want to get pictures and where is our highest priority for repair? Who do I need to hire to help? What can we do ourselves? If it's another Eagle Scout project, that's great, but how do we get these fixed? Because that is really our biggest liability that I can see right now. Yeah.
Boy, I'm just a monkey wrench girl today. There's a trail I know about that hasn't been repaired in 15 years. That's not on any map. Then I'll talk to you about it later.
Well, and that means it's not a trail that the city, so the other thing with
I
that,
think the Eagle Scouts did it 15 years ago.
so,
And it's
it happens all the time.
It's in terrible repair.
So another thing that we're gonna be doing is our GIS mapping system is not accurate. Somebody from GIS, from what I'm assuming, went and walked our trails, and that doesn't mean those trails are city sanctioned trails that we maintain. And so we're not doing ourselves a service right now by having that on there. So it's another part that I want to do is what is road coming from somebody's backyard? What's a trail that somebody built? Because not only do we have to maintain the trail, we have to maintain the hazard trees on every one of those trails. So that's where we need to get our mapping system better.
If I may, I remember the trails plan,
Yes,
was really contentious.
it was.
And I think there was a fundamental flaw in thinking.
Yeah.
It started with the question. I remember being at the meetings. Here's a map.
Yes.
Draw all of the trails
Yeah.
that connect all of these different points. And it was on this massive scale. And that was the quest. How do we draw trails to connect? And there was so much energy into it, and it was massively contentious because if your goal is connect everything, it was going through people's
Not
yards and
everybody wants
property.
that.
Yeah.
And it left us with massive trails as opposed to good trails. And I think at the time, I remember thinking, why don't we focus on these are really awesome trails. And maybe let some others just grow because we don't have the staff to maintain it. And
Right.
we started with that premise. You have a magic marker, you just draw everywhere, and then the consulting firm turned that into proposal. And it was,
Thank you for that.
you were there, weren't you? It was frankly disastrous, and it all started with this premise.
Even question,
Yes.
right?
No, it's not even a question. Here's a magic marker. Everything. And that's what drove it. And I was part of it, and at the time, I think that's what made me want to get on Parks for, because this is insane.
Right.
It was kind of a squirrely process, and I love our trails.
Oh, they're amazing.
I love our
Yeah.
trails. I mean, I walk on and I've been on many, and it's not sustainable.
That's the problem, right? And all of the neighborhood trails, like the ones that connect your neighborhoods, I was shocked when we heard that that's on the Parks and Recreation Department. Those usually are part of neighborhood associations in other cities, but they manage those trails for connectivity versus having it, or the street department, depending on where it is, because they're right of way. We're parks people. And so we have all of those trails in our system. So when it comes down to trails, I have to get very particular. If it's not a sanctioned trail, and I did this in my previous job, you have to then, we can't maintain all of those because it's not only the pathway itself, the actual, think of the hazard trees that you have to manage on top of that as well. And so what we're doing right now, we have nobody dedicated to our trail system right now. What I'm doing is working, and our master plan says that we walk through all of our trails once a year. So that's the only expectation, I mean, right now. Yeah, so, but, no, you cannot.
Palomino.
Yeah, I know, right? I keep calling it backwards. But what we're doing though is I have two people who already do a lot of that activity. I don't know if you know Nate and Matt. They're going to be
Very well.
working with us because they have a passion for that and very much so interested in natural areas, to start walking with me and walking and getting some of those pictures and say, okay, in this next year, what is our greatest risk for safety for our visitors coming through? And then we'll get that kind of documented so then we can start making headway when I'm looking at budget or deferring. Is it a playground that we need to do or a shelter we need to do? But this really might be what we need to do first for safety.
Well, I mean, yeah, look at some trails that had unsafe.
And so when we're looking at the trail itself, the
Now, we're
natural.
spending money on a trail that almost nobody would use anyway, because of how steep it is. And it's really steep and hard to fix, and it's never gonna
Are
fly.
you talking about Palomino?
Yeah, that one's a real, it should have never.
We loved that when our kids were growing up. But
Oh, I
remember
know.
thinking it was so hard, and it was out there, we were talking about where that tree is, and there's barely a step, stepping out, running down.
I've been coaching for 26 years now. We used to run those trails.
I remember.
High school and stuff.
I mean, it's
We gave that up 15 years.
Yeah.
We haven't been on those trails for 15 years because we're still unsafe.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that, again, when we have, so there's two different, when we have a man-made feature that we've added, that's our number one res. Two, if you have a slow, and you can add to this since you know trails. When you're looking at a bank that's sliding or something, that's your secondary. But if we have stair steps leading people to that then side bank, the first concern is those stair steps that we've created. Because part of that recreational immunity part, again, we want to be safe. It's not like we're trying to look for the out to not have to maintain. That's not it at all. But trying to look at how do we start? We can't fix everything. So what is our greatest risk of having people be in there safe?
I want to also add, the chief of police at the time came to the Parks Board and said, we can't even patrol our parks. Do not create so many trails. He said, if we get calls, we can't even get to them.
Don't even know where they are.
Right.
We don't know where they are. There's so many.
Well,
And,
and safety for them to go and they can't go alone. They need to go.
and he said, please be selective in something that can be maintained and something that we have at least a chance of helping somebody if they're in need.
Right.
And, it was, so that was just one more.
No, I
layer.
really appreciate, because I have the trails master plan, so I think what I'm doing, so I don't have to step into a huge hornet's nest, it's just looking at what's there and is safe and what's the highest priority and highest use right now, and then looking at some of those neighborhood areas, like for example, Tanner Creek area down here has some real, I would love to have that connection in my neighborhood. But how do we partner with some of the neighborhood associations to help with that volunteerism to help us maintain those? Even if it's vegetation, we haven't had a chance to really step into that because we don't really know where we sit. So I'm going to be taking this kind of winter time to kind of go through and see where our worst case scenarios are to start getting prepared. And again, we're always doing our playground inspections. If something's broken, we fix that, of course, like those things, the basic things. When we're looking at where I might have to really put some money in some of these areas that we've had improved trail systems with man-made structures that we'll have to repair. The crew has been really good about bridges. We've got a few more that are pretty dilapidated, like in North Willamette. To figure out, does that really need to be there? Should it be there? Those type of things that will be weighing, but I need to do that kind of fact finding. And then look at a greater assessment, but kind of triage over the winter. Because we have really amazing carpenters and builders on our staff who build amazing, amazing things. So we can do some of that in-house, but we don't have time to do all of it. So that's kind of a big, sorry, Chris, I left you with this big shared thing. You've read it probably 10 times by now. So that's kind of that inventory when I'm saying it's more of what is our safety concerns to start and start making some of those repairs and looking at a longer term budget process. Maddox Woods parking lot, I forgot an S. There was a design before it finished up when I got here, which you're planning to do in Grass Creek parking down in their area. I need to, that's still sitting there. I'd hope to have that project started for this fall to go into the winter. I'll be meeting with them. I have to make sure, in case anybody's listening, it hasn't fallen off the radar. I just had to take a pause. I gotta figure out where the funding comes from that. It was another kind of a good passion project for that group. But trying to figure out, there were some complications with it, but it has been approved. So that's still sitting there to do. We have just started onboarding our contract arborists. I don't know if you know, our, again, this is not necessarily this wrong, but to me it is trees over parks.
Did we have arborists?
We had, we've always had an arborist. We had a half FTE that turned into a full FTE, more so just because of the job change and organization. And so what we're doing right now is there's actually a group of us, I'm not doing it in a silo. Tara, our front desk, upstairs in finance, who runs some of our website browsers as far as doing online forms, we're working, and Mike Perkins, who was our previous our city arborist, he's the arborist for the parks department now, so he's helping me kind of vouch through since Ron Jones retired in April. Then we've hired on Todd Krager Associates, who does planning for all agencies around, to come in and be our contract arborist for a period of time. That he's going to help us refine our process within the current code that we have, which keeps things really difficult for us to do our job. And we're going to already working on an online process, because right now a paper copy comes in, it gets scanned, it gets emailed, hopefully not lost, scanned back. So there's a whole bunch going on with that will be able to be, and eventually a lot of those tree permits, when you get the right criteria from a homeowner like LO, the contracted arborist planning approves all of those permits unless there's a question, and the contract arborist goes and does that. So you start to have some better value with your money and more efficiency with your customer service with those permits. So that's what we're kind of working through right now. It'll take us probably till the beginning of the year to really slowly, but you'll start to see online applications versus paper. We'll still take paper for a while, but eventually we'll want to cut that off so we have better tracking and better.
1999 is gonna be so sad.
I'm like the fun killer over here is what they're saying, but it's just simple things. Mike can have 10 tree notifications and he has to go out to all those places where in other cities, the person comes and picks up the sign and posts it and returns it back. There's just some efficiencies that it's not putting more of it on the homeowner, but having to be more a part of the process that we're looking at. So anyway, so there's more to come there. We've been kind of hobbling along and seeing how the process works. So I'm really happy to have Todd Krager. Todd Krager and Associates.
Todd Krager.
Yeah, he works with Lake Oswego. He used to be an arborist actually at the city of Tigard. He's helped the city of Milwaukee with their tree code. I worked with him specifically. We went out and got 3 quotes because of the size of the contract, it's relatively small. And worked with him on the urban forestry update plan and LO. So he's really well versed in the community, and as far as being able to be that liaison to say, what can we do? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Who else is doing something that we can borrow, you know? So we're super excited. And this also works with planning and engineering too, right? So whether it's tree protection that we do, street trees, all of that stuff is under. And I'm arborist as well. I don't know if everybody knows that, but yes. So also the other thing is we're building the parks maintenance plan that I talked to you guys about. So that to me again is getting that staff buy-in and doing that planning for budgetary, and we can optimize our seasonal staff better. We know how to ask for things in the right way and start to see that improvement with what we're doing and really get a real grapple of what we are able to do and but just be way more efficient. A big thing for me personally is that I would like our facilities that we have, our restrooms, our shelters to be maintained better and cleaned better. So setting some of those standards, but also realizing what we have, like Tanner Crates, for example, the inside of it, it's dark and dingy. I don't even like to go in there. But besides the cleaning piece, there's things that we can do to the flooring, to the lighting, maybe some paint that will make it look brighter, feel cleaner. And my goal is if your sister, your grandmother, your mother, you want them to go in there and be able to use it, even though it's a public bathroom. We want it to feel welcoming. So those are some things that we'll be looking on. But for me, for next summer, that's key. If somebody's renting a shelter, I want that shelter as clean as we can get it. So we'll be working with staff on that as well. And it doesn't have to be harder. I keep telling them that. If we do it frequently and continuously, it's less maintenance to do. But our facilities are used. Yeah. So let's see, Chris, I swear I'm going to switch the slide. Okay. I think this is just a recap of what I've already said. But the one thing I haven't talked about yet, but we should be getting into, we are, Public Works and Parks are doing a system development charge update. They actually started it before I got here. They're waiting on me for some appraisals of properties, which I'm trying to figure out how the heck to go about doing that. I'm talking with other agencies and.
Wait. That's under your umbrella?
Yes.
You're doing the appraisal of
No. I'm working, no, oh gosh, can you imagine?
No, I love
Yeah.
that.
I have to think.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I'm not just gonna
No.
crazy.
Our
No,
appraisal.
No,
No, what I have to do is give them some of those numbers, and there's different methodology to going and getting that, and so I'm working with other agencies and the SEC. It's been my low kind of thing that I haven't been getting it completed, but I'm like meeting with Wilsonville actually tomorrow to talk about their system development charge update and how they did their assessments of the values. Like if I was to buy wetland, open space, and developed parkland, how do you figure out what that fee, what that is at an average? And so there's some people have hired an appraiser, a real estate appraiser to come and give them a swap of what open properties may be. There's other methods that you have past purchases we haven't purchased in a long time. And so I'm learning my SDC charges. So there'll be an update in that as well. But we don't get a whole lot because we don't have a lot of growth and we don't have a lot of business. So if you're gonna ask me a complicated question.
No.
I'm
I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around the SDC.
Yeah.
And so, no, that's okay.
System development charges.
And so we jump from the system development, which I was still trying to figure out. So maybe you can just take 30 seconds and explain what that is.
Still a big one for me to really, I don't want to sound completely foolish, and I might. But what it is there's charges when you, say you buy a house and you're gonna build a house, there's a certain amount of charge that go back into the city as far as the fee goes.
Okay.
Ours are relative, from what I understand, nobody quote me online or Chris, ours are relatively low because it's based on your growth and development.
Mhm.
And we don't get a whole, like our percentages are really low. Like I'm gonna throw out a percentage and please nobody, like say 3%. But really, I mean, honestly, it's really small. And so you do update every so often to kind of see if there's a change that we do have growth and development, that you're in the right. So you're not trying to overtax somebody developing, but it's that charge and that fee that goes back into the system to help take care of the systems that are in place from the city, like sewer. So for public works, sewage, roads, sidewalks, those things. For parks, as far as our value of that development paying into the park system, that increases the value. I have a lot to learn about SCC charges, and also they can only be applied to certain things, right? Too, as far as, so I know enough to be that I'm not jumping in, I'm pausing to learn more to make sure it's not an area I dealt with a lot in my previous job. So I'm in my education sponge mode and making sure I'm understanding it. So I've got Public Works has done it before, they've been great, but I want to make sure I do this right for all of us and not just gonna.
Just these get complicated. So complicated.
So we'll have to be a 101 when I get a little bit more 101 to myself.
I will say, as part of that, I make sure there's a protocol for using the STC because we have some citizens who are really good at saying, oh, this development's going in. I figured out the STC here and I want the money going here. And,
Yeah, it come to our court before.
oh, yeah.
I think that was like Tanner Creek. Tanner Creek, we had a specific STC fund whenever we did. So all that money came from the Tanner Creek.
Yeah.
It was designated.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Needs to have that for a project, yeah.
So that will be, thank you. We'll have more discussions now for you all to see. I learn more. I need to be like, I don't know, but I'm not going to tell you I know when I don't know. So that's one thing that's coming. So that project list, honestly, those funds are there. They don't expire, right? So that's why I really want to focus on the bond projects and money that are there, so that we can complete what we committed to doing or having understanding of what we're able to complete with what we have left.
Isn't there a time frame on those? Go on.
Yes, that's where, so we're trying to get to like the 2026 timeframe is what I've been told. I'm going to be sitting down with John, city manager, and our finance director to kind of, okay, let's really dive into this, what we've done, where we're at, what we're supposed to do, how do we get there, and what can we do to get there? And then be able to have a really transparent conversation about what is possible with what we have and what was committed to. So I definitely am not going to be my passion project person. You'll know that with me. It's like, I want to follow what's been created and what we can finish. We really watch this about it too. So, Chris, I'll stop sharing because you've been in this tiny screen for a long time. I'd rather see your face. Okay, there you are. We're here. Well, he just sees that when you're on that, you see the whole screen and all of us are in this tiny little box. So that was all the project update. There's more things that are going on, but I think the more I can share with you all, I think it helps with guidance and also advocacy for us. So some things that you'll be getting to see in the near future, I hope, is kind of we're looking at our program offerings and looking at what age groups they are, what areas of focus that they're in, which are listed on our master plan. And then we can start to see some gaps. They haven't had a chance to really refresh what we're doing. And we'll be starting surveys again after people, it's going to take us, I'm thinking over the next year to kind of see what areas are we lacking. Even with what was listed in our master plan, that was in 19, there's, some areas that we're deficient in and we have limited spaces. So where else can we program? We're not programming outside a lot, so we're really looking at what is the community wanting and what can we offer with the staff we have. So we just met with the city like Oswego too, because there's some really good programmers just because we know them too. But a lot of in-house, how are they handling some of their contractors? And again, when we go to this conference, the whole rec staff will be going and part of the park staff. We network a ton. It's such a great, and eventually I would love to be able to have you guys start to integrate with some of our PA as well. So I'm very, coming from the nursery and landscape industry and coming into switching complete fields where I was really on the softball team of the OEN Nursery Association. This organization has got me to here with the networking and our staff to where they are. There's no other place that we can get information and knowledge and networking on other agencies. And we got, like just today, did we allow golf carts on our riverfront properties for motorized ADA accessibility? Somebody just even asked that question, right? And so Liam over in, where is he not? Grants Pass, send it to a group of all of us to say, who has this and what is your policy? Do you know, those are the things that we come up with. I asked about the commercial use or business use. I sent that out to a large group of people and meeting with admin, who's the directors. What are you guys doing for this? So it's so incredibly valuable in the time that the city allows me to get back to that organization. I'm on the board. I have just been asked to be a leadership mentor for our leadership academy. To me is so integral because it builds who we are as staff and makes us, it's the only place you can really get professional education because we don't have that at school. None of our schools have recreation.
I just want to recognize that you consistently seek out best practices for West Linn. And that's really valuable. And you are clearly using your network for the benefit of the community and doing a lot of cleanup in policy and process. So.
Thank you.
This is good.
I see the hope in the future and things aren't broken, but I see where we can get to and just improve what we're doing. And it's been a challenge. It hasn't been easy, but it's really enjoyable where we're getting to. And again, the staff is rocking it. When I come to like, we're doing what? They call me down the road my ears. Like, okay, now tell me again. Let's start over.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and they've all inherited a lot too, even though like Tara's been here, her role has changed. And so she's inherited things that maybe she wouldn't have done. And so it's been a really good team effort, And same thing with Jen over at Wexton. Sorry, I did a lot of talking today. I'm so sorry.
No, that was
Is that what you're
intended.
looking for? Okay.
Absolutely not. We had put off
I
a
know,
lot
thank
of
you.
projects for other staff. So that was
More's coming. I think there's things that we had on our agenda that were supposed to be that we've there's things I don't want to lose, but know that those are important for us to present what we're up to.
Well, it's helpful. I mean, people in the community ask us questions, why are they mulching? When do they mulch?
We're still figuring that out. I mean, I know, we can't do it, right?
Yeah, there'll be a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, are there any specific items of interest from board members that you haven't already surfaced?
I'll my back to you.
I've got one.
Yeah.
When can I start using chainsaws? in various-
Well.
I can ask that once a week.
No, I know. So please, will you wholeheartedly for me extend my appreciation for taking this break because I know winter's coming. Our new city attorney just started on Monday. I cannot tell you how thankful I am. It's not that we're not going to have to remain Mr. On-call city attorney because when you have no attorney framework in your city, it takes time to build. She is amazing. I already literally, because of the things I have going on with a few things, I actually have 3 meetings with her tomorrow. It's only her 5th day of being here, but I have a couple things that are crucial moments that need to be handled. So with that, that's going to be one of those questions. The one thing with down to earth, and I don't want this to be alarming, Bardeed actually with the state says that trees that are hazardous are to be deemed by a certified arborist to be removed.
Oh.
So that's something,
That's cool. We've got-
yeah, well, so, but that's with the city, not on your staff, like, so it'll on your volunteerism, yeah.
But I mean, you know,
So so it's not bad, it's just a matter, there used to be that help because we weren't doing anything. So that's the only one that I've got to find out the city's level of risk of allowing chainsaw use. So my goal is not to find some protocol of like, for example, the tractor is a huge risk, honestly, for tractors broken. But having a signed agreement with the person who's training them, who's driving it, and so we just have that release for that person, for their safety and for ours. Volunteer waiver forms, we're relying on SOLV right now, but technically we're not having anybody sign anything with us. Those are things that end up being, that could be cumbersome, but you make it into a submitted sheet, so it's not that, you know, I've lived and breathed it, so I have real ways that it doesn't add too much, but it also really does cover us and the person coming in to volunteer. So tell them, give me a little bit, and my goal is not to remove that, but just having the city's gonna have to figure out its risk, but taking trees down and hoping our staff is being better about, hey, we're noticing this, we come look at it, and then we get it taken down. I want to build that relationship better. So tell them I'm still working on it, and I want to give this back, and I can't.
I'm scheduled on the 25th.
Oh, yeah, we're walking through. I
In
mean,
a couple of weeks, yeah.
we're walking through.
We
Yeah,
have volunteers.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more information to kind of give some freedom to do some things. But we're going to be doing that with all of our volunteer groups. It may take us this whole winter, but to meet, because they've been working without a lot of guidance. You guys are doing great at Marriottown, but there are some parameters that we can look at. And maybe my goal is to eventually have some funding or grant money to help us with our invasive species and our plantings. That's my goal to build over time. So instead of just constantly removing and not getting anywhere, having some protocols and processes in place. Marriottown group is doing it, but others are just continuing cutting and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
There's the bigger strategies, and since that was my wheelhouse, I'll be able to help some of that in a longer term game. So for me, it's holding on to who's doing what they're doing and keep them moving forward is what our plan is. It's just making sure that we're able to be a maybe not better partner, but try to have a little bit more organization for it. Because Tara's rocked it, so is Jen. But there's only so much time, and we have all these passionate volunteers. I just don't want their time to feel ever wasted. And I don't want to feel like they're feeling like they're constrained. So volunteers are golden.
It's so much work. But
Yeah,
it's meant to be so nice when everything's set in place.
Yeah.
Best practices.
Well, and what it does too, it helps you in so many ways, because you can have, not Marriottown, you can have a group that goes out and starts clearing everything, but if there's no plan, you know, blackberry and ivy are bad. But if you take all of that off and you don't have a plan, you end up with shiny leaf geranium. You can end up with all these other things that increase the seed bank. And you're going to have those too. You have to have a long-term plan. And if that volunteer base fades out, then what do you do? So just having a little bit more strategic plan when we have these groups, and some of them start like, hey, your volunteer base is fading down, save the trees. Take care around the native species that are clustered and clear that area, keep those growing, because eventually that will start to shape out along the time. But just ripping everything clear doesn't get you anything if you don't have the manpower to plant, the money to plant, and the continual maintenance on it. And I mean, Marriottown is a perfect example of that. Just continue. I mean, how many? There's a group of people in there 3 times a week, and that's just one park and in one main area, right? Look at the rest of the area, and so trying to,
We have long-term plans.
you do, right, exactly, you know, but those are the things that we need to work with, because we don't own the land, there's things we have to do, and I want to be able to harness and piggyback off what they're doing and find funding to help support it. that's, if I were to have a passion project, that would be, well, to me, it goes for fire safety, it goes for, I mean, there's so many things that go into that, right? We have so much natural urban land. So, yeah, so tell them we do have a walkthrough at the end of the month.
25th?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
yeah, so
So-
we slated a couple hours for it, so you had to go through each section with each crew leader to kind of walk through.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna fit in.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, honestly. Yeah.
So do we spray blackberries as a park?
So we do, it certainly, we'll never spray blackberries if they're in flower or fruit, ever.
Flower?
Yep, flower fruit, so
So
people
people
can
can
pick
pick
to
away.
their heart's content. I came in with that belief, in our parks.
Can't guarantee.
Yeah, on our park land, I can't guarantee right away, I can't, but in our designated park land, that is what we do. Sometimes people think it's parkland, it's not ours. But yes, I had that philosophy in Ella, but I came here and actually it was already here. So that when there's blackberries and it's snack time, you go snap. If we had to do something, like say we had to do a restoration area for some reason, we would cut it down first and remove that risk and then do any spot treatments. But yeah. So that's kind of, that's where the IPM, the integrated pest management, long term is really important for me. So it's approved by you guys, it's approved by council, and it's not something that we want chemicals. Nobody wants to use chemicals. I'm also certified. I have my spray applicator's license too, and I don't need to keep that. Well, I had to have it. It's
So do you ever sleep?
I have about 30 credits in the pack on, but to me, that's the important part, right? The license isn't that expensive, but I had to take this testing. I've actually done the work, and when I talk to people, it's personal because if I were Megan Big John to have a spray issue, not only the city is liable, but me personally is liable. So that is such a stake to where I tell people that I'm a mom. I have a cat, I'm not a dog owner, but when we do this work, it's very serious. It's not that we're just out haphazardly doing it. It's so even what that may have happened in the past, I bring that is environmental risk, personal risk. It's actually super personal to everybody who's there, including the sprayer. So those are the things that we're building. So you'll see a little bit more spot spraying signage that we put up. We have better signage that we'll be able to do that explains what we're doing and why we're doing it versus just say, herbicide use don't come in.
Yeah, that's not.
But no, but I'm just happy that we're at least doing it.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a chance to update that, but those are things explaining that it's a part of our tool belt and toolbox. It's not always our go-to, right? And so the restoration work, you have to use some of that to get some headway, but you do it strategically. But the city doesn't have that, it doesn't have that knowledge, and we're not going to start doing that until we get some buy-in and education as to what we may need to do. And so, and like I said, may need to do. That's not the desire, then we don't. But they're just using that tool correctly. And so again, another one where Mama Bear comes into play. Yeah.
Well, just to summarize, actions.
Sorry for the notes there on this.
No. So walk through area young on the
September 25th.
On October 12th, the Saturday is the Fall Fest, 11 to 2, Parks Board, the candy thing. We are, I'm just looking, I think those are our only action items.
Well, in the walkthrough, we're just meeting with the volunteers.
Right. That's not, I mean, just to know.
Yeah, really, actually. Welcome to that.
Bring your boots and gloves.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I was just trying to look through if I had any other, my to-do list for the night.
That sounds good.
Oh, can I do one more little thing too? I'm so sorry, I'm running out of time. I did want to let you know that we are, I hate to say the word skilled rich. It's really contentious for a lot of people, but I just want you to know that we are actively involved on the park side of what, we came into it to being designed, being already in a process, but we just even walked through with the school district contract leader and our parks have to look at some of the irrigation, some of the slopes, some of the seed mixes that are on the sides of the bank to like what is manageable, like keeping some pollinators in there, but some of them were unmanageable for us if we had to weed it down. So looking at road mixes that are, through tried and true companies that create those mixes. So just know that we're involved there. We're looking at the big wall, like what can we actually do with it? Do with that big wall? And then also the mitigation that goes in there. I'll be working with a company to help offset. The school has mitigation, but we have some improvements we'd like to do down in that in the detention pond there, where all the red twig is, and working with that volunteer group. So it's kind of my thought of our launch of some restoration work. It's a small scale, but we are actively involved in it and kind of, it's a bigger contentious project, but knowing at the end of it, we're hoping to get it to where it, things like when you see a great change, now you see that going into the shelter, that can't be, right? That's not gonna help. So, but it's been a great process, at least from our end, since I was not part of the original and at the beginning, wasn't fully involved. Just let you know, we are present with those things and things that are updating our irrigation and it may not be all exactly how we wanted at the end, but it would be, we're not a part of the conversation. I think in the past for a wasn't. So
That's good to know. Yeah. Our next meeting is November 14th and, October 10th. Excuse me, I did the agenda, October agenda. And I looked at the bottom of that instead of the bottom, it's October 10th. So, and we will, have policy discussion, and the Linn Park project update, regular updates. And then it was in our plan, we delayed a discussion about, just an update on the Clayton House. Do you
Yes.
want that on the agenda?
I think I just gave a talk to the Lions and Mike Waters was there, who's been very instrumental in that property. I may need to bump it to the following month. What we're trying to do, I did pause on what we can do with that house with the conditional use and all of those things. I really committed to them and told them, we don't want the house to sit vacant. A historic house that isn't used and moved does not do well, right? And so we just had our retreat there today. So I still haven't had a chance to dive into further. And again, think about where we started with this down conditionally. What is going to give conditional use for down to earth? It's the same type of situation that we have that. So if we can, I don't want to push to December. My goal is to have some answer for us before we get to summer, so we know how we can use it.
That's fine. I just did a.
Yeah, but then you guys had a little update of where I'm at, because I just talking with the Lions Club about it this last week. So,
registry.
yeah, it is on the 19th, I believe. It's being presented, the work to be able to put in the national registry. So that's great. That'll happen.
Good.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And then, 205 part of that, I'll be able to give a little bit more update just for having conversations of what is that when they leave, how does that look over there? Those bridge repairs. So there's some, again, higher level conversations that will start to get focused in communities.
There's the October agenda, just like
Okay. And one that I will that fell off here is when I talk about, the Sustainability Advisory Board was going to bring up tree code. I don't know if they still have it on there. What I wanted to do was just, and I think it'll be great when Todd gets on board a little bit more, to come in and just kind of give you an overview. Todd, Prager, the contract driver, sorry. Just not sorry. Did you know? But just talk about the tree code in general, how it relates to parks, and I just don't want it to be opened up by one board and not have us have an understanding of some of that. So that's kind of so I think it'd be great to have Todd here. You might perfect to talk about some of the hurdles and what we're looking to do. So just so we're aware, if it does get popped up, I will be engaging because it really truly impacts the work we do too in our parks. So
awesome. Thank you. Any other comments?
I think I'm sweating right now. Talk so.
Then let's officially close the meeting. And Megan, thank you so much for all your preparation. Could you send the PowerPoint out in the email?
Yes, I just don't want it to go in the greater good, but I have to do things.
Yeah, just for us.
Okay, yeah. Chris, I thank you for being here.